So the Frierdiker Rebbe says, the Rebbe quotes from the Frierdiker Rebbe in the Sicha that I mentioned, that the Frierdiker Rebbe apparently said in his Sicha Yadua, the known Sicha, that mashke is a dover mos. Mashke is something which is repulsive, it's disgusting. Another quote from the Frierdiker Rebbe regarding mashke is in the letter that I mentioned. The Rebbe quotes, the Frierdiker Rebbe apparently was told by his doctors that he can't drink mashke. And so by farbrengen, the Frierdiker Rebbe used to say that as ich bin itzder wie noch mashke, that now, even without drinking mashke, I have the energy and the chayis as someone that took mashke. So the Rebbe built on that, and so on and so forth. You can see the letter with the Rebbe, what the Rebbe does with that statement of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and when the Rebbe used to deal with the statement of the Frierdiker Rebbe, he took it very seriously. He didn't even a seemingly light comment like that. The Rebbe saw much deeper. So that's what that's pretty much what we have from the Frierdiker Rebbe in those two sources in regards to drinking mashke. At least in those two sources, those are the 2 points that are mentioned in the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Rebbe, in his suggestion in the letter in 1953, says 2 reasons as to why you shouldn't drink mashke. And they are: A, because nowadays we have such an abundance of chassidus. The Rebbe printed so much chassidus before the Rebbe started printing chassidus, and just like every year more and more mamorim from the previous rabbeim, there was maybe 40, 30 volumes. I mean, it was a small library. Today you have hundreds of volumes. So because we have so much chassidus, and there's so much information that can be used to help inspire us and to warm our hearts to avodas Hashem, so we don't need mashke as much. That's the first reason. B, because the lechaim in Rusland and Lubavitch, so they weren't being mekarev yidden. They weren't dealing with the public. It's more of a private chassidus. Now that we have so much exposure, so we have to be careful, because someone sees a farbrengen and people are drinking, people can get the wrong impressions. Those are the 2 reasons that I've mentioned. Now, interesting to note that the Rebbe in that letter seems to say that he doesn't differentiate between in the letter the Rebbe doesn't differentiate between adults and bachrim. In other words, those 2 reasons apply across the board. Those 2 reasons apply across the board. Applies to adults and children and so on and so forth. In the Sicha, the Rebbe does start differentiating, but just to put out that yesod, that it's something which does apply across the board in terms of those 2 reasons. In addition, in the Sicha, where the Rebbe does mention, in the Sicha where the Rebbe puts his fist down and says that's it, only 3, the Rebbe says over 40 you can make your own decisions, but at the same time, the Rebbe says that one should still take less, even those that are older. And on the blog below, I linked to a Sicha of the Rebbe in 1965, actually an edited Yechidus, where the Rebbe said even adults, even older married people, that get shikr, so they are not my shluchim. I said I'm not going to go beyond these 2 sources, but that source is, the Rebbe makes a very strong statement that you're not my shluchim if you take too much mashke. So that's a strong statement.